Welcome back to Reading the List, where we review, discuss, and reimagine popular movie lists objectively. We're your hosts. I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad. And on this episode, we're going to be exploring number 80 from AFI's 100 Years, 100 Passions, the 100 Greatest Love Stories of All Time.
All right, and number 80 is The Sheik, directed by George Melford, starring Rudolph Valentino and Agnes Aries, released in 1921.
Yeah, so this is one of the oldest movies on our list.
Yeah.
So, very interesting. The synopsis for the silent film is as follows. In the North African town Biskra, headstrong Lady Diana Mayo, played by Agnes Aries, refuses a marriage proposal, fearing she will lose her independence. Against her brother's intentions, she plans a month-long trip to the desert, escorted only by natives. She goes to the local casino and is informed it's been rented for the night by an important sheik and only Arabs may enter. Intrigued, she enters in disguise and finds the men are gambling for new wives. When she is selected as a prize, she resists. Sheik Ahmed Ben Hassan, played by Rudolph Valentino, realizes she is wife and intervenes. Though amused, he sends her away. He learns from another patron about her trip. The sheik hatches a plan and disables her gun while she sleeps. Lady Diana leaves for her trip and assures her brother she will see him in London next month. The sheik and his men come upon her and he easily captures her. At his encampment, he orders her about and she resists. But he tells her she will learn. Diana tries to escape into the desert during a sandstorm, and the sheik must save her from certain death. After a week, the sheik is delighted to learn a school friend from Paris is coming for a visit. Dismayed to be seen by a Westerner in Arab garb, she insists her clothing be returned. By the time the friend, Raoul, arrives, her spirit is broken. Raoul reprimands the sheik for his treatment of Diana. Diana eventually escapes into the desert and comes upon a caravan led by the bandit Omer. The sheik reaches her first. The sheik confesses to Raoul he loves her and eventually lets her go. She playfully writes, "I love you, Ahmed," in the sand before being captured by Omer. The sheik learns of the abduction and attacks Omer's stronghold. After a long fight, he defeats Omer but is gravely injured. She sits with him while Raoul tends to him, learning the sheik is British and Spanish, not Arab. His parents died in the desert, and he was raised by the old sheik. When he awakes, she confesses her love for him.
So I kind of want to start this one off with a question.
Okay.
Because I feel like a lot of movies that we have watched, and especially the older type movies, it feels like I get kind of excited because they're like independent woman,
right,
and she's like fighting the society, and she's like...
And then they fall into the damsel in distress thing.
They fall into the damsel in distress thing. Like, I feel that they're trying to say when a woman is independent or when she is, being, I guess, a feminist, she's looking for trouble.
Right.
And trouble's going to come her way.
Right.
She gets kidnapped.
Right.
Because she decided to go on this trip.
Right. She wouldn't get kidnapped if she just had her place in the world.
Right. If she went there with her brother.
I agree.
Or whatever.
It happens a lot. And it's really disappointing because they start out, you're like, oh, this might be different.
Yes. Like, wow.
And this one I was actually thinking it might be. So we've discussed the Hays Code before in previous episodes. So this is shot in 1921 before the Hays Code. So I thought there might be some more interesting text to review.
Yeah.
This was one of the few movies that's on this list that I haven't seen at least once before.
This was also a silent movie.
Yeah. So this movie was restored in the 90s. So I'm really glad we watched it, but you can really see the spots. Like, it's clear that they probably pulled this together from at least a half a dozen different prints, which sometimes you have to do with older movies. You've got to get the best available footage, and you can tell like the lighting and stuff changes in several spots, but it is what it is. The movie is 101 years old, so
it looks pretty damn good.
It looks
for 101.
really, really damn good. And then the music was was redone as well, because I'm guessing because they didn't have a copy of the audio track, which is pretty typical. So what they used to often do in silent movies is they used to have like an organist play in the theater while the movie was playing, so you didn't have like a soundtrack attached to the film itself. So that was one thing that they did. So the music feels just a touch too modern to me in spots.
I agree with you. I feel like it was like redone in the like recently.
It was done in the 90s.
Yeah,
for sure. So I'm really glad I watched this just from from the aspect of being a film fan. But that said, not a huge fan of the love story in this one. It's just really, really strange. And again, it's that whole like, if you, it's this whole like really toxic masculinity thing where if you keep persisting against a woman, eventually she is going to fall under your spell.
You're going to kidnap her, you're going to take her to the desert, you're going to treat her like crap, and then she's going to fall in love with you.
You're going to break her spirit, but eventually she's going to realize that you're giving her what she needs, and therefore she's going to fall.
Why is this such a big movie trope? Because I feel like as we venture on in the years, it feels like it's still around, it just looks different.
Yeah, I think it comes down to who's writing these movies. You're getting stories that were written by men with a certain worldview and a certain view towards women and their place in the world, and frankly, that hasn't changed all that much.
Well, and I also think it has a lot to do with the mentality of women have to be rescued.
Yes.
Like, I think that comes back from our roots as cavemen, about how the man has to
That's the thing. I'm not sure that it does. So, basically, a lot of primitive societies were matriarchal. And, when you had like a hunter-gatherer society, it's pretty equal. So yeah, I mean, the only difference was, the men had a slightly more dangerous job. They went out and they hunted, but it's not like the women didn't have things to do. The women were gathering, so they had to pick the right berry. So one of the cool things I learned about this is one of the reasons that women see color better than men do. So like like women will give a guy a really bad time when they're showing him like a color swatch, and to us it's like they're all red. It's just red. And to a woman it's 5 very distinct shades of red, and the reason is shade number 2 is the safe berry and shade number 5 is the poison berry. So you sure as hell better know which one is which.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's where that kind of came from, and it's kind of persisted through our it's still in our DNA to this day, causing many a fight among couples at Home Depot picking a paint color.
Well, even at my job, I deal heavily with colors and finishes, and so it's like I can tell if it's like a little off, if it doesn't match, so yeah.
So that's kind of where that comes from. So the women had an important thing to do. They were bringing in a lot of the food too. It wasn't just the.
Well, then I don't know where that comes from.
I don't really. I think it comes from, honestly, these things kind of changed as society changed. But back then the women took care of the children, which is a very important job, and they got a good decent amount of the food, which is obviously very important.
Well, I also think that women, before movies, before television, they were told stories, right, growing up about princesses and Prince Charming and coming to rescue you and take you and get married. So I feel like sometimes that mentality comes into play there. I also think that men are raised to, most men, I'm not going to say all, but a lot of men are raised to think that they have to protect and provide for their women. So I think that's kind of where it kind of stems from. Yeah,
it's definitely it's inbred into society. I think it's changing some.
It is changing
slowly but surely. It's changing.
Yeah,
and you kind of see that with a lot of the way that women are portrayed in movies today. It's different. It's better. It's not great in some cases, but it's better. and it's evolving.
Yes.
And you also have more female writers and filmmakers.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna get a feminine gaze perspective anyway, which is tends to be better as well.
Yeah.
So like I said, really glad that we got to watch this movie. It was, just as a film fan, it's kind of hard sometimes to find a lot of these silent movies. A lot of them aren't available anymore. You get like the really famous ones like Charlie Chaplin a lot of the time, Buster Keaton.
Yeah.
You get those ones, but some stuff just gets lost to time, and film degrades, and Hollywood hasn't done a real great job of preserving their history in some cases. Mm-hmm. But it was neat to see this. It was neat to see Rudolph Valentino, who is one of the biggest names of the silent era, do his thing. You see right away, like, oh yeah, I get why this guy was a sex symbol at his time. Very handsome man.
Yes, very handsome.
And he has a real screen presence, and it's also kind of interesting to see how the actors on screen really use their body language, even more so than like someone who's on stage. Mm-hmm. They really use their body language to tell the story, which is really, really cool. It was a cool movie. I just don't think it's necessarily right for this list.
And it doesn't hold up.
And it really doesn't hold up. So I gave it a 57. Jerry gave it a 23. So the list score is therefore 40. So I don't have a ton more to say about this.
Yeah.
Interesting watch. I would have liked to have watched it without the kind of lens of this list and see. Mm-hmm. I might have enjoyed it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just like from a film perspective, but it is what it is. That's why we're watching all these movies. I mean, we're watching sometimes like 5 or 6 movies a week at this point.
Yeah.
Most of them either from the main list or stuff we've chosen to review to see if it might make our overall list. So we're kind of chugging along and watching as much as we can, and kind of the more that we watch, the more that we see these kinds of things come up over and over again, like she was talking about with this thing where they seemingly write a really great female character, and then they throw and then it just really like nosedives, and I can see it on her face as soon as it happens. It's really funny. So anyway, that's all we have to say about number 80, The Sheik.
All right. Well, please comment and like our video. Feedback is great. And yeah, stay tuned for our next show.
All right. Until next time, I'm Brad.
I'm Jerry.
And we're rating the list.
See ya.
Bye.